The morning sun rose over New Terra just like any other day. Children laughed and played in the streets of Harrison Colony, a small human settlement on the edge of known space. Parents prepared breakfast, teachers opened their classrooms, and life continued in its peaceful rhythm. Nobody noticed the ship hovering beyond their sensor range, watching and waiting. Rextal studied the settlement through his scanning equipment. His scales rippled with satisfaction as he counted the small humans running around below, 47 juveniles, all between the ages of 5 and 12. Perfect specimens. The Zethari trafficker had done this hundreds of times before with other species. Humans would be no different. They have no orbital defenses, his second-in-command reported. Their communication systems are primitive. We can be in and out before they even send a distress signal. Rextal clicked his mandibles in approval. The Galactic Council had accepted humans into their community only 3 years ago. They were weak, emotional creatures who cried over the smallest things. Their technology was laughable compared to most civilized species. The Zethari had been trafficking juveniles from minor species for decades, and nobody ever did anything about it. The galaxy was a harsh place, and weak species learned to accept their losses. "Begin the operation," Rextal ordered. The Zethari ship descended rapidly, using jamming technology to block all communications from the colony. Specially designed capture drones flew through the streets, stunning the small humans before they could scream. Parents ran outside at the sound of the commotion, but they too were rendered unconscious by the stunning weapons. The entire operation took less than 12 minutes. When the colonists woke up, 47 children were gone. The parents' screams could be heard across the entire settlement. 3,000 light-years away, Ambassador Chen Wei sat in the Galactic Council chambers. She was a small woman by human standards, barely 5 feet tall, with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her dark eyes watched the various alien representatives debate trade regulations with patient interest. This was her job now, sitting in endless meetings and trying to make humanity's voice heard among species that had been exploring the stars for thousands of years. Her communication device buzzed urgently. Chen glanced down and saw the priority code that made her blood run cold. She excused herself quietly and stepped into a private chamber. "Ambassador Chen," the voice on the other end was Colonel Marcus Hayes from Earth Defense Command. "We have a situation. New Terra Colony. 47 children have been abducted by an unknown alien vessel. We've identified the ship as belonging to the Zethari Collective." Chen closed her eyes and took a slow breath. "Do we know where they've taken the children?" "Not yet. We're tracking their jump signature. Ambassador, the parents are demanding action. The entire colony is in chaos. The media on Earth will have this story within the hour." "Understood, Colonel. Begin tracking operations. I'll handle the diplomatic side." "And Colonel?" "Alert the defense fleets." Quietly, Chen returned to the council chamber with her expression perfectly calm. She waited patiently for a break in the current debate before requesting the floor. The Arbiter, a tall being named Thelnox from the Corthan species, gestured for her to speak. "Thank you, Arbiter. I bring an urgent matter before this council. Approximately 2 hours ago, 47 human children were abducted from one of our colonies by a vessel belonging to the Zethari Collective. I formally request the Council's assistance in securing their immediate return." The chamber erupted in clicking, buzzing, and various forms of alien communication. The Zethari representative, a creature named Krolvex, rose to his full height. "The human makes serious accusations," Krolvex said. His translator rendered his words in perfect galactic standard. "Does she have proof of Zethari involvement?" Chen's assistant projected the sensor data and ship identification onto the central display. "Our colony's sensors captured your ship's energy signature before you jammed our communications. We have the vessel's registration codes. This ship is registered to Vrextal of the Zethari merchant fleet." Krolvex studied the data with what might have been amusement. "Vrextal is a private merchant. If he has acquired biological specimens from an unclaimed world, that is his legal right under galactic salvage law." "New Terra is a claimed world," Chen said quietly. "It is a registered human colony. Registered for only 3 years. Another alien representative interjected. "This one was from the Pelthian Concordat, a species known for its strict adherence to bureaucratic procedure. Under galactic law, a colony must be established for minimum of 5 years before full territorial rights are recognized." Chen felt something cold settle in her stomach. You're telling me that because our colony is only 3 years old, our children can be legally kidnapped? Salvaged, Krolvex corrected. Not kidnapped. There is a difference in galactic law. The Arbiter raised one of his many appendages. The human raises a valid concern. However, the law is clear. The Zithari representative is technically correct. The colony's territorial claim is not yet fully recognized. Chen looked around the chamber. Some aliens looked uncomfortable. Others seemed indifferent. A few appeared almost amused by humanity's distress. She had spent 3 years in this chamber, learning their laws, understanding their customs, trying to make humanity fit into this galactic community. And now she understood the truth. They saw humans as weak, as victims to be tolerated but not protected. I see, Chen said softly. Then I make a formal request to Zithari Representative Krolvex. Please return the children. We will discuss compensation for any inconvenience. Krolvex's scales rippled in what the translator interpreted as laughter. The human may submit a formal petition through proper channels. The Zithari Collective will review it according to our standard procedures. This typically takes 6 to 8 galactic standard months. 6 to 8 months, Chen repeated. She nodded slowly. And in that time, what will happen to the children? That is not the Council's concern, the Pelthian representative said. What private merchants do with their salvaged goods is their own business. Chen stood very still. When she spoke again, her voice was so quiet that the translation systems had to amplify it for the chamber to hear. I want to make sure I understand the Council's position. You will not help us recover our children. You consider them salvaged goods, and you expect us to wait 6 to 8 months while you process paperwork. That is the law, the Arbiter confirmed. Surely the humans understand that law must be applied equally to all species. Chen looked at each representative in turn. Then she smiled, and something about that smile made several of the aliens shift uncomfortably in their seats. Thank you for clarifying the situation, Arbiter. I will communicate the Council's position to my government immediately. She turned and walked out of the chamber with careful, measured steps. The moment she was in the privacy of the human embassy, she activated her secure communication line. Colonel Hayes, this is Ambassador Chen. The Council will not help us. Contact Earth immediately. Tell them to activate Protocol Guardian. All fleets, all ships, everything we have. And Colonel? Tell them we have 72 hours to find those children. After that, we stop asking nicely. Understood, Ambassador. What about the Council? Chen's smile was cold. Let them watch. Let them all watch what happens when you touch a human's child. We're going to teach this galaxy a lesson they'll never forget. Across human space, warships began to move. The galaxy was about to discover that humanity's greatest weakness was also their most terrifying strength. 24 hours had passed since the abduction. In the Zithari holding facility on their colony world of Zith Prime, Frextal examined his new acquisitions with professional interest. The human juveniles were kept in clean but bare containment cells grouped by size. They cried constantly, calling for their parents in their primitive language. They're more emotional than the Pelthian young we took last year, his assistant observed. Should we sedate them? Frextal waved a claw dismissively. Let them cry. It doesn't matter. By the time their species files the proper paperwork, these specimens will be sold and distributed across 3 different sectors. Humans are too scattered, too new to galactic politics. They'll accept this loss like every other minor species does. What Vrextal didn't know was that humanity had no intention of filing paperwork. On Earth, Fleet Admiral James Richardson stood in the operations center deep beneath Geneva. Around him, holographic displays showed the position of every human military vessel in known space. There weren't many compared to the major galactic powers. Humanity had focused on exploration and peaceful expansion, not military might, or at least that's what the galaxy believed. Status report, Richardson commanded. Captain Sarah Okonkwo stepped forward. She was tall, dark-skinned, with eyes that hadn't slept in over a day. Admiral, we've located the Zithari ship. It docked at Zith Prime 17 hours ago. Intelligence confirms the children are being held in a trafficking facility on the planet's surface. We have satellite imagery and internal blueprints stolen from Zithari databases. How did we get internal blueprints in less than a day? Asked General Viktor Petrov, the head of Earth Intelligence. We've had them for 2 years, sir, Petrov's assistant replied. We've been mapping every major trafficking operation in this sector since we joined the Galactic Council. We knew this might happen eventually. The room went quiet. Richardson nodded slowly. Continue. Okonkwo pulled up a star map. Red dots appeared across 14 different Zithari worlds. These are confirmed trafficking facilities. We estimate over 3,000 juveniles from various species are currently being held across these locations. The Zithari have been operating this network for at least 40 years. And the Council knows about this? Someone asked. The Council knows, Petrov confirmed. They don't care. It's technically legal under their salvage laws. Minor species without full territorial rights are considered fair game. Richardson's jaw tightened. Recommendations? We have 72 hours before Ambassador Chen's deadline expires, Okonkwo said. I recommend we use that time to position our forces. Strike teams can reach all 14 facilities simultaneously. We extract our children, gather evidence of the other species being held, and present it to the Council as a fait accompli. They'll call it an act of war, another officer warned. Let them, Richardson said quietly. We'll call it a rescue operation. Captain Okonkwo, you'll lead the primary team to Zith Prime. I want those children home safely, but I want more than that. I want every piece of evidence we can gather, every record, every transaction, every species these monsters have victimized. When we're done, the galaxy will know exactly what the Zithari have been doing. Rules of engagement, sir? Minimize casualties but protect our people first. If the Zithari resist, you are authorized to use necessary force. But Captain, be precise. No collateral damage, no civilian casualties. We're not monsters. We're parents getting our children back. Across human space, ships began to move, but they moved quietly, using civilian traffic patterns to mask their deployment. Merchant vessels that just happened to be carrying special forces teams, science ships that suddenly altered course, transport vessels loaded with Marines instead of cargo. The galaxy's intelligence networks noticed the unusual activity, but they couldn't decode the encrypted human communications. The Zithari dismissed it entirely. In the Galactic Council chambers, other species watched with interest. Ambassador Chen had returned to her duties as if nothing was wrong. She attended meetings, voted on proposals, and participated in debates with her usual calm professionalism. But those who looked closely could see something different in her eyes, something cold and patient. The Pelthian representative approached her during a break. Ambassador Chen, I wanted to express my personal sympathy for your situation. The law is sometimes harsh. Chen smiled politely. Thank you, Ambassador Telvor. The law is indeed very clear. Your government will submit the proper petition, yes? My government is handling the situation appropriately. Telvor's sensory organs twitched. That is good. It is important to follow proper procedures. The Zithari collective is quite powerful. It would be unwise for a young species like humanity to create conflict. Oh, we have no desire for conflict, Chen assured him. We simply want our children back. I'm sure any species would understand that desire. Of course. But surely you understand the practical realities. The children are already gone. It is tragic, but these things happen in the galaxy. Better to accept and move forward than to fight battles you cannot win. Chen's smile never wavered. Ambassador Telvor, may I ask you a question? Do the Pelthians value their young? Telvor seemed taken aback. Naturally. All species value their offspring. Then tell me, if someone took Pelthian children, how would your people respond? We would follow proper legal channels, of course. We are a civilized species. I see, Chen said softly. Thank you for your perspective. She walked away, leaving Telvor with an uncomfortable feeling he couldn't quite name. Something about the human's tone suggested she hadn't been asking a hypothetical question. On Zith Prime, young Emma Martinez huddled with her younger brother Carlos in their containment cell. Emma was 11 years old, and she had been trying to keep the other children calm for over a day now. But it was hard when she was so scared herself. Emma, when are Mom and Dad coming? Carlos asked for the 100th time. He was only 6, and he didn't understand what was happening. Soon, Emma promised, though she wasn't sure she believed it. Mom and Dad will find us. And the soldiers will come. Remember what Dad always said? Nobody messes with Earth's kids. An older boy named Jackson, who was 12, laughed bitterly from across the cell. Your dad was just saying that to make you feel safe. We're too far from Earth. Nobody's coming. Emma glared at him. You don't know that. My dad was a Marine. He said humans always protect their kids, always. That was before we met aliens, Jackson said. We're nobody out here. Emma wanted to argue, but she was too tired. Instead, she held Carlos close and tried to believe her own words. Somewhere, somehow, someone was coming for them. They had to be. She didn't know that 300,000 kilometers above her head, Captain Sarah Okonkwo's ship had just entered orbit. 72 hours were almost up and humanity was done asking nicely. Brextal received the first warning when his long-range sensors detected unusual ship movements near Zithari space. Ships were approaching from multiple vectors, but they weren't broadcasting standard identification codes. He contacted Zithari Defense Forces to report the anomaly. "We see them," the defense coordinator replied. "Approximately 40 vessels of unknown origin. They're not responding to hails. Are they hostile?" There was a pause. "We don't know. They're just sitting there, waiting." Brextal felt a strange sensation, something that might have been nervousness. He had never felt nervous about human before. They were weak. Everyone knew it. But as he watched his sensors, more ships appeared. And more, all sitting silently at the edge of Zithari space. Like predators surrounding their prey, for the first time, Brextal wondered if he had made a mistake. The 72 hours expired at exactly midnight, Galactic Standard Time. Ambassador Chen sent a simple message to the Zithari Collective. "Last chance. Return the children now." The Zithari representative didn't even bother to respond. That was their second mistake. Admiral Richardson gave the order from Earth. "Execute Operation Guardian. Bring our children home." The human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel simultaneously across 14 Zithari worlds. It was a coordination feat that impressed even the most experienced military analyst in the galaxy. One moment, Zithari space was quiet. The next, human warships appeared in orbit around their key facilities like ghosts materializing from darkness. On Zith Prime, Brextal stared at his screens in disbelief. 12 human vessels surrounded his world, and they weren't commercial ships. These were military craft, bristling with weapons he hadn't known humans possessed. Before he could process what was happening, his communication system activated with an override code that bypassed all his security. "Attention Zithari Facility Omega-7, a female voice said in perfect galactic standard. "This is Captain Sarah Okonkwo of Earth Defense Forces. You are holding 47 human children. You will release them immediately and surrender all personnel involved in their abduction. You have 5 minutes to comply." Brextal's scales rippled with anger. "This is an act of war. You cannot simply invade sovereign Zithari space and make demands. The Galactic Council will—" 4 minutes, 30 seconds, Captain Okonkwo interrupted. "I suggest you use that time wisely." Brextal switched to his military channel. "This is Facility Omega-7 requesting immediate Defense Fleet support. We are under attack by human forces." The response came quickly. "Facility Omega-7, be advised. Defense Fleet is engaging multiple human vessels across the system. We cannot provide support at this time." "What? How many humans are there?" "More than we estimated. Much more." Brextal looked at his countdown timer. 3 minutes remaining. He knew the facility's defenses could hold against a direct assault. The humans would have to fight their way in, which would take hours. By then reinforcements would arrive. He was wrong. At exactly 2 minutes the human ships fired. But they weren't firing at the facility. Instead, precise energy beams struck every communication relay, every sensor array, and every defensive weapon emplacement with surgical accuracy. In 30 seconds, the facility was completely isolated and defenseless. "They knew," Brextal whispered in horror. "They knew exactly where everything was." His assistant was checking their security. "Sir, someone has been accessing our systems. The intrusions date back months. The humans have complete blueprints of our facility." Drop pods began falling from the sky. Not random drops, but precisely targeted insertions at every entrance and vulnerable point. Brextal watched helplessly as human soldiers breached his facility with overwhelming efficiency. Inside the facility, Emma Martinez heard the explosions and pulled Carlos closer. The other children screamed as the building shook. Then suddenly, the door to their cell exploded inward in a shower of sparks. A figure in black armor stood in the doorway, weapon raised. Emma couldn't see their face behind the helmet, but she could hear the voice through the speaker. "Kids, I'm Lieutenant Chen from Earth Defense Forces. We're here to take you home." Emma burst into tears. I told you they'd come." More soldiers poured into the cell block, moving with purpose but also gentleness. They had brought blankets, water, and emergency rations. One soldier knelt beside Carlos and offered him a chocolate bar. Hey buddy, you like chocolate? Let's get you wrapped up and safe, okay? Within minutes, all 47 children were accounted for and being evacuated to the human ships. But the soldiers didn't stop there. They moved deeper into the facility, following pre-planned routes to the data centers. Rextal tried to flee, but found human soldiers waiting at every exit. They didn't shoot him. They simply pointed their weapons and gestured for him to kneel. Within 20 minutes of the first ship's arrival, the entire facility was under human control. Captain Okonkwo walked through the facility with her command team. What they found made her jaw tighten with rage. The children's cells were bad enough, but deeper in the complex they discovered records. Thousands of records, species after species, young beings taken and sold like property. "Captain, you need to see this," one of her intelligence officers called. He had accessed the facility's main database. They've been operating for 47 years. Over 15,000 juveniles trafficked. Species from all over this sector. "Download everything," Okonkwo ordered. "Every file, every transaction, every name of every buyer and seller. I want a complete record. Ma'am, that's going to take at least an hour to copy. Then we take an hour. Let the Zithari try to stop us." Outside, the Zithari defense fleet was learning a painful lesson about human military capability. The ships that had seemed weak and primitive in the intelligence reports were nothing like the vessels they now faced. Human ships moved with unexpected speed. Their weapons fired with terrifying accuracy, and their tactics were ruthlessly effective. Commander Zeknal of the Zithari Third Fleet tried to organize a counterattack, but the humans seemed to predict every move. His ships were outmaneuvered, outgunned, and worst of all, outdated. Human technology was at least 20 years more advanced than the Zithari had believed possible. "How?" Zeknal demanded of his intelligence officer. "How did we miss this?" "Sir, I believe the humans have been hiding their true capabilities since joining the Council. These ships, these weapons, they've had them all along, it was true. Humanity had watched the galaxy carefully for 3 years. They had seen the wars, the trafficking, the casual cruelty that civilized species inflicted on those weaker than themselves. And they had prepared. While other species saw humans as weak and emotional, humans had been quietly building, planning, and waiting for the day when someone would test them. That day had come. Across Zithari space, the same scene repeated at 13 other facilities. Human forces struck with identical precision. Not a single child was left behind. Not a single data file was missed. The Zithari tried to resist at some locations, but human soldiers operated with a level of protective fury that no Zithari had ever encountered. At Facility Sigma 3, a Zithari guard made the mistake of pointing his weapon at a cell full of human children. The human soldier who shot the weapon out of his hand moved so fast the guard didn't see it coming. Then the soldier leaned in close and spoke in perfectly translated Zithari. "Those are children. You don't even look at them wrong. Understand?" The guard understood. Back on Zith Prime, Captain Okonkwo received reports from all strike teams. "Ma'am, all human children recovered. 0 casualties. We've also found 317 juveniles from other species being held across all facilities." Okonkwo nodded. "What about the evidence?" "Everything downloaded. Financial records, client lists, communication logs. We have enough evidence to prove the Zithari trafficking network has been operating across 7 sectors for nearly 5 decades. Good. Prepare for extraction, and bring every alien child we found. We're taking them all." "Ma'am, we don't have authority to—" "I don't care about authority, Lieutenant. No child gets left behind. Not ours, not anyone's. We'll sort out the diplomatic mess later. Right now, we're getting every single juvenile out of these hellholes." On board the flagship, medics checked each child carefully. The human children were dehydrated and traumatized, but physically unharmed. Emma Martinez sat wrapped in a thermal blanket, holding Carlos while a medic scanned them both. "You were very brave," the medic told her. "You kept the other kids calm. That helped a lot." "Are we really going home?" Emma asked. "Yes, we're taking you home right now." "What about the aliens?" Emma pointed to the other children being treated. Small beings with fur, scales, and features she'd never seen before, all of them looking just as scared as she had felt. "We're taking them home too," the medic promised. "Every one of them." As the human ships prepared to leave Zithari space, Captain Okonkwo sent a message to Admiral Richardson on Earth. "Mission accomplished, Admiral. All human children recovered. 0 casualties among our people. We're bringing some guests." "Guests?" Richardson asked. 317 children from other species. We found them in the facilities. I made an executive decision to extract them as well. There was a pause. Then Richardson's voice came back with what might have been a smile in it. Good work, Captain. Bring them all home. We'll figure out the rest. The human fleet jumped to faster than light speed, leaving the Zithari system behind. But they left something else too. On every world they had struck, they left data packets broadcasting on all frequencies. Evidence of 47 years of trafficking. Names, dates, species affected, and proof that the Galactic Council had known and done nothing. The galaxy was about to have a very uncomfortable conversation. The Galactic Council chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives from 36 species shouted, clicked, buzzed, and roared in their various forms of communication. At the center of it all, Ambassador Chen Wei stood at the human podium, her expression calm while the storm raged around her. Arbiter Thelnox struggled to restore order. Silence. The Council will have order. The Zithari representative Krolvex pointed an accusatory claw at Chen. The humans have committed an act of war. They invaded our territory, destroyed our property, and kidnapped our personnel. We demand immediate sanctions and the return of our facilities. Chen waited for the translation to finish before responding. When she spoke, her voice was quiet, but it carried across the entire chamber. Kidnapped? That's an interesting choice of words, Representative Krolvex. She gestured, and holographic displays activated throughout the chamber. Data began streaming across every screen. Financial records, transaction logs, identification files. The evidence that human intelligence had gathered from 14 different facilities. These are the records from your trafficking network, Chen continued. 47 years of operations. 15,632 juveniles taken from their families. 17 different species affected. And you want to talk about kidnapping? A representative from the Pelthian Concordat rose. Ambassador Chen, while the evidence is disturbing, you must understand that the humans acted outside proper legal channels. You cannot simply invade a sovereign world because they took our children? Chen interrupted. Please, Ambassador Telvor, help me understand. What is the proper legal channel when someone steals your young? Should we have filed the paperwork you suggested? Waited 6 to 8 months while our children were sold to the highest bidder? Telvor's sensory organs twitched uncomfortably. The law must be followed. Your law said our children could be legally salvaged. Your law said we had no recourse. Your law protected traffickers and punished victims. Chen's voice remained steady, but her eyes were cold. So we followed a different law. Human law. And human law is very simple when it comes to children. Nobody touches them. Nobody takes them. Nobody sells them. And if you do, we come for you. Another display activated, showing footage from the rescue operations. The Council watched in silence as human soldiers moved through the facilities with precision and purpose. They saw the cells, the children, the cold efficiency of the trafficking operation. They also saw how carefully the humans had operated, how they had avoided unnecessary casualties, how they had protected not just human children, but all the juveniles they found. A new voice spoke up. It was Ambassador Thrennick from the Valtorian Union, a species known for their large family groups. Ambassador Chen, we understand your anger, but you must see that your actions have created a significant diplomatic crisis. The Zithari are demanding justice. What do you expect this council to do? Chen smiled, and it wasn't a friendly expression. Justice? Yes, let's talk about justice. Do you see these files? They show that children from the Valtorian Union have been trafficked by the Zithari. 47 Valtorian juveniles over the past decade. Thrennick froze. What? We found them in the records. Not all of them are still alive, but we have 3 Valtorian children currently in our care. We're arranging to return them to their families. Chen turned to face the entire council. In fact, we found children from 12 different species represented in this chamber. Species who are sitting here right now, debating whether to punish us for rescuing victims of a crime you all allowed to happen. The chamber fell silent. Chen pulled up more data, highlighting specific cases. The Korthan hierarchy lost 23 juveniles. The Pelthian Concordat lost 68. The Vrexian Empire lost 94. Would any of you like to explain to your people why you knew about this and did nothing? Krolvex's scales shifted colors. These are lies. Propaganda created by the humans to justify their aggression. Then let's verify, Chen suggested. We have the children in our custody. We have DNA records. We can match them to their families. Shall we start with the Valtorians? Ambassador Thrennick, would you like to contact the families of the juveniles listed here and confirm they've been missing? Thrennick looked at the list of names Chen had provided. His face went pale. These are real cases. Missing children from the past 8 years. We thought they were lost to accidents or natural causes. They weren't lost, Chen said quietly. They were taken. Just like ours. The difference is we came for them. A representative from the Zerolian collective stood. Her species was one of the oldest and most respected in the galaxy. Ambassador Chen, what you have revealed is deeply troubling. But your military action still violated galactic law. We cannot simply ignore that precedent. Chen nodded. You're right, Ambassador Skelvara. We did violate your law. And we would do it again. Every single time. Because there's something you need to understand about humans. We value law, we value order, we value civilization. But we value our children more. Much more. She paused, looking at each representative in turn. You see, we're a young species. We're emotional and primitive by your standards. We cry, we rage, we feel things deeply. And maybe that makes us weak in your eyes. But it also makes us something else. It makes us very, very dangerous when our children are threatened. Is that a threat? Krolvex demanded. No, Chen replied. It's a promise. To every species in this chamber, to every being in this galaxy, if you trade fairly with us, we'll be good neighbors. If you share knowledge with us, we'll share ours. If you seek peace with us, you'll find peace. But if you touch our children, we will come for you. We will find you, and we will not stop until every child is home safely. The Arbiter raised his appendages for silence. Ambassador Chen, the Council must deliberate on this matter. The Zithari have filed formal complaints of military aggression. We cannot simply... Chen interrupted with a gesture that brought up yet another display. This one showed communications between the Zithari government and their trafficking operations. Orders, approvals, official government seals. These documents prove the Zithari government knew about the trafficking and actively supported it. They provided security, legal cover, and infrastructure. This wasn't the action of a few rogue merchants. It was state-sponsored crime. Krolvex stood abruptly. Those documents are classified. How did we get them? Chen smiled. We have excellent intelligence services. We've been watching the galaxy very carefully since we joined. We saw the wars, the trafficking, the casual cruelty, and we prepared. She turned back to the Council.
For 3 years you've seen us as weak.
As primitive. As a species too emotional and disorganized to be a real power. You were wrong. We are organized. We are capable, and we are absolutely willing to break your laws when those laws protect monsters and punish victims. Admiral Skelvara stood again. What do you want, Ambassador Chen? You have your children back. You have exposed the Zithari network. What more do you seek? Change, Chen said simply. We want laws that protect children of all species. We want trafficking recognized as a galactic crime, not a legal gray area. We want species to be able to defend their young without waiting for bureaucratic approval. And we want consequences for those who prey on the vulnerable. These are significant changes to galactic law, the Arbiter observed. Yes, they are, but they're necessary changes. Unless you want us to continue enforcing our own justice when the Council fails to provide it. A new representative spoke. This was Koltar from the Makthan Assembly, a military species that humanity had never dealt with before. The humans speak of enforcement. Do you truly believe your species has the military capability to back up these threats? Chen looked at him steadily. We just executed coordinated military operations across 14 worlds simultaneously. We disabled defenses, extracted our objectives, and departed before you even knew what was happening. And we did it without causing unnecessary casualties. Does that answer your question? Koltar made a sound that might have been approval. It does. The Makthan Assembly recognizes strength when we see it. We will support the human proposal. More voices joined in. Species whose children had been found in the Zithari facilities spoke in favor of Chen's proposals. Others, uncomfortable with humanity's display of military power, argued for maintaining the existing legal structure. The debate raged for hours. Finally, the Arbiter called for order. The Council will vote on the human proposals. But first, we must address the question of the Zithari complaint. They demand sanctions against humanity for the military action. Chen stood again. Before you vote, I want you to see something. A final hologram appeared. It showed Emma Martinez, the 11-year-old girl who had kept hope alive in the cells. She was speaking to a human reporter, I knew they'd come, Emma said in the recording. My dad told me humans always protect their kids, always, and he was right. Chen let the words hang in the air. That child believed in us. All those children believed someone would come. And we did. Not 6 months from now. Not after the proper paperwork. We came immediately and we brought them all home. That's what being human means. The vote began. When it was finished, the Zithari trafficking network was declared a criminal organization. New laws were drafted to protect juveniles of all species, and the human military action. 6 months had passed since the rescue operation that shook the galaxy. On Earth, in a small park near Harrison Colony where it all began, a memorial stood under the afternoon sun. 47 names were carved into dark stone, each one representing a child who had been taken and brought home. Fresh flowers appeared at the memorial every day, placed there by grateful parents who would never forget how close they had come to losing everything. Emma Martinez sat on a bench near the memorial with her mother. Carlos was running around with other children, laughing and playing like the nightmare had never happened. But it had happened, and Emma knew she would never forget it. She had nightmares sometimes. So did the other children. But they were home, and that made all the difference. How are you feeling today? Her mother asked, putting an arm around Emma's shoulders. Better, Emma said honestly. The counselor says I'm making progress. And it helps that we're all together, you know? All of us who went through it. We understand each other. A man in military uniform approached the memorial. It was Captain Okonkwo, though she'd been promoted to major now. She placed her own flowers at the base of the stone and then noticed Emma watching. Mind if I join you? Okonkwo asked. Emma's mother nodded, and Okonkwo sat down beside them. She'd visited the children many times over the past months, checking on their recovery. Emma had come to appreciate these quiet moments with the woman who had led the rescue. I wanted you to know something, Okonkwo said to Emma. Remember how you told your brother that someone would come? That humans always protect their kids? Emma nodded. You were right. And do you know why you were right? Because of people like your father, and like you. Because even when you were scared, you kept hope alive. You protected the other children. You didn't give up. That's what being human means. Emma thought about this. Major Okonkwo, are the other children okay? The ones from other planets? They are. We returned all of them to their families. Some of them had been missing for years. The reunions were... Okonkwo paused, her voice thick with emotion. They were beautiful. What Okonkwo didn't mention was the diplomatic whirlwind that had followed. The Galactic Council had spent months implementing what was now called the Chen Protocols, a comprehensive set of laws protecting juveniles of all species. Trafficking was now recognized as a universal crime, regardless of territorial claims or salvage laws, and humanity had been appointed to lead the enforcement task force. In the Galactic Council chambers, Ambassador Chen sat in her usual seat, but the atmosphere had changed dramatically. Where before she had been viewed as a representative of a minor species, now she was treated with careful respect. Some species offered genuine friendship, others maintained cautious distance. A few, like the Zithari, harbored bitter resentment. The Zithari collective had fractured after the exposure of their trafficking network. Internal conflicts and economic sanctions had weakened them significantly. Their government had changed 3 times in 6 months, each new leadership promising reform and accountability. But the damage to their reputation was permanent. Ambassador Threnik of the Valtorian Union approached Chen during a break in the session. Ambassador Chen, I wanted to thank you again. My nephew was among the children you recovered. We had mourned him for 2 years, believing he died in a transport accident. Chen smiled warmly. I'm glad he's home safely. How is he adjusting? It's difficult. He has nightmares. But he's surrounded by family, and we're giving him all the support he needs. Threnik hesitated. I wanted to apologize as well. When you first brought this matter to the council, I sided with procedure over compassion. I will never make that mistake again. We all learned something from this, Chen said gently. Sometimes the law needs to be challenged when it protects the wrong people. On the human flagship that now permanently orbited Earth, Admiral Richardson reviewed reports from the Child Protection Task Force. It was an ambitious project, but humanity had committed to it fully. Human ships now patrolled sectors where trafficking had been reported. Working with willing alien species, they had shut down 17 additional trafficking operations in the past 6 months. Captain Sarah Okonkwo entered his office with the latest report. "Admiral, we've received a request from the Korthan hierarchy. They want our help investigating suspected trafficking in their outer colonies." Richardson nodded. "Assign a task force. Make sure they understand we're there to assist, not to take over. This has to be a cooperative effort." "Understood, sir." Okonkwo paused. "Admiral, have you seen the intelligence reports about the Zithari?" "I have. They're making threats about retaliation. Do you think they're serious?" "I think they're desperate," Okonkwo said. "Their economy is collapsing, their government is unstable, and they've lost all credibility in the galaxy. But desperate people do dangerous things like keep monitoring them. If they make a move against any of our assets or our people, we respond immediately." What Richardson didn't know was that the Zithari had already made their move. A small faction within their fractured government had decided that humanity needed to pay for their humiliation. They had hired mercenaries from 3 different species and were planning an attack on a human colony. But human intelligence, which had proven remarkably effective, was already aware of the plot. On a distant space station, a meeting was taking place between unlikely allies. Representative Koltar from the Makthan Assembly was speaking with several other military species. The topic was humanity. "They have changed the galaxy in 6 months," Koltar observed. "Species that we thought weak now look to them for protection. The old power structures are shifting." A Vrexian commander nodded. "Some say humans are too emotional, too protective, that their feelings make them vulnerable." "Those people are fools," Koltar said bluntly. "I have studied human history. They are emotional, yes, but that emotion is not weakness. It is fuel. When they love deeply. When they protect fiercely, and when they fight with a passion that cold logic cannot match." "Should we fear them?" another species asked. "No, we should respect them. And if we are wise, we should learn from them." Koltar pulled up a display showing human rescue operations. "Look at how they fight. Not for territory, not for resources, but for their young. There is no hesitation, no cost too high. That kind of commitment is rare in the galaxy." Back on Earth, Emma Martinez was writing in her journal. Her counselor had suggested it as a way to process her feelings. She wrote about the fear, the hope, and the moment when human soldiers had burst through the door. But she also wrote about something else. "I used to think aliens would be exciting and wonderful, and maybe some of them are. But I learned that the galaxy can be scary too. There are people out there who hurt others, who take children, who do terrible things. But I also learned that we don't have to accept it. We can fight back. We can protect each other. And no matter how far away we are, no matter how lost we feel, someone will come for us, because that's what humans do." She closed the journal and looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere up there, other children were sleeping safely because humans had refused to accept the galaxy's cruelty. The thought made her feel better. In the Galactic Council chambers, a new proposal was being debated. Several species wanted to form a joint protection force, modeled on humanity's task force but expanded to include all willing species. Ambassador Chen supported the idea enthusiastically. "This is exactly what we hoped for," she told the council. "Not humanity acting alone, but all species working together to protect the vulnerable. That's how civilization should work." The proposal passed with overwhelming support. Only the Zithari and a few of their traditional allies voted against it. The galaxy was changing, and even those who resented the change had to acknowledge it. Admiral Skelvara, who had become an unexpected ally of humanity, approached Chen after the vote. "You have achieved something remarkable, Ambassador. In 6 months, you have transformed galactic law and created a new model for cooperation. How does it feel?" Chen considered the question. "Bittersweet. We only did this because we were forced to, because someone took our children and we had to fight to get them back. I would have preferred a galaxy where this wasn't necessary. But it was necessary," Skelvara said. "And you did what needed to be done. My species has been in the galaxy for thousands of years. We thought we understood civilization. But humans have taught us that civilization without compassion is just organized cruelty." As the months continued, humanity's reputation in the galaxy solidified. They were known as fierce protectors, capable warriors, and surprisingly skilled diplomats. But more than anything, they were known as the species that would never ever abandon their children. Some species tried to test this new dynamic. A few trafficking operations attempted to resume their activities, thinking humanity couldn't be everywhere at once. They were wrong. Human intelligence networks had spread throughout the galaxy, and the Child Protection Task Force responded with speed and precision to every threat. The message was clear. The galaxy had changed. The days when the strong could prey on